Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into something that sounds small but is actually a huge deal. We're going to see how a single policy change, just a new standard for diesel fuel, is set to completely change the game for Afghanistan's health, its economy, and its future. Let's get right into it. So, it really all boils down to this one question. I know, it might sound kind of technical, a little boring even, but as you're about to see, when you start regulating the quality of something as basic as fuel, the ripple effects can touch absolutely everything, from the air you breathe to the way entire nations trade with each other. Now, to really get why this new standard is such a game changer, we first have to understand the problem it's trying to solve. And that means we need to talk about Afghanistan's long and pretty costly history with, well, dirty fuel. For years, the country has basically been running on low-quality fuels, a lot of it coming from totally unregulated markets. And this wasn't some abstract issue. It had real everyday costs. We're talking about fuel that actively damaged vehicle engines, choked cities with smog, and had a direct negative impact on people's health. It was just an unsustainable situation for millions of people. But that chapter is finally coming to a close. So let's flip the script and talk about the solution and the really decisive action the government took to tackle this problem head-on. On July 1st, 2025, a new era really did begin. The Ministry of Industry and Commerce put a mandatory national standard in place for all imported diesel. And look, this wasn't just some small adjustment. It was a fundamental move designed to modernize the country's entire fuel system from the ground up. So what does clean diesel actually mean in this case? What makes it different? Well, it all comes down to a few key technical details that completely change the quality of the diesel being brought into the country. Okay, the number one enemy here, it's sulfur. When you've got a lot of sulfur in your diesel, burning it releases nasty stuff like sulfur dioxide. And that's a huge cause of air pollution and even acid rain. So if you want to fix the problem, you have to put a strict limit on it. And that new limit is 2,000 parts per million, or ppm. By forcing everyone to stick to this cap, the new rule directly attacks the single dirtiest part of old-school diesel. This number, right here, is the bedrock of the whole policy. It's the line in the sand between the old, dirty fuel and the new, cleaner stuff. But it's not just about what you take out, it's also about the quality of what you're putting in. And that brings us to something called the Cetane index. You can kind of think of it like a report card for how good the fuel is at igniting. The higher the Cetane number, the faster and more completely the fuel burns. And that means you get better engine performance, more efficiency, and way less wear and tear over time. The new rule sets the bar at a minimum Cetane index of 51. So now the fuel isn't just cleaner because it has less sulfur, it's also just better. It performs better. For anyone driving a truck, running a business, or just commuting to work, that translates directly into engines that are better protected and just run a whole lot smoother. Of course, you can set all the new rules you want, but if nobody can actually supply the right kind of fuel, what's the point? This is where a key player in the region saw an opportunity and stepped up to meet the new demand. A company called Oilload, which is based over in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, saw this change coming. They got ahead of the curve and actually re-engineered their operations to produce a diesel specifically designed to meet Afghanistan's strict new 2025 standard. And the fuel they're making isn't just close, it's a perfect match. I mean, look at this. The Afghan standard says you need a maximum of 2,000 ppm for sulfur. Oilload delivers. It demands a minimum Cetane index of 51. Oilload hits that mark exactly. This perfect alignment makes them a natural supplier for the country's new market. All right, so we've laid out the problem and we've got a tailor-made solution. But what does this all add up to? Let's zoom out and look at the real-world impact this is going to have across the entire country. The benefits here are just massive, and they go way beyond the fuel tank. We're talking about a serious drop in air pollutants, which means cleaner, healthier air to breathe in the cities. Engines are going to last longer, saving money for businesses and families. It also helps build these crucial energy partnerships in the region. And this is key. It sends a powerful signal to international investors that Afghanistan is a stable, modernizing place to do business. And if you really want to understand the scale of this thing, just think about this number. Afghanistan imports over 1 million liters of diesel every single day. Now, imagine every single one of those million liters is cleaner, more efficient, and way less damaging. The positive impact that's going to have on the nation's environment and economy is honestly just staggering. You know, in the end, this quote from the supplier, Oilload, really sums up the whole spirit of this project perfectly. The goal isn't just about selling fuel, it's about making sure engines run cleaner, longer, and smarter. That's the trifecta right there that's driving this entire revolution. And that kind of leaves us with one big question to think about. Afghanistan has clearly taken a huge step forward. The real question now is, could this one decisive policy be the spark that ignites a much bigger shift towards cleaner energy and stricter standards across the entire region? I guess only time will tell.